Hello, everyone, and welcome to Developing Palates. I'm Aaron Loomis, and with me, as always, is June Liu. How you doing, June?
Good man. I gotta get a haircut. Sort of a little chia petish.
Starting to lay down on you?
Look like a chia pet.
Well, tonight we are talking about the CAO Consigliere Associate, and this is a Robusto, 5 inches by 52 ring gauge. Comes out of the STG Esteli factory in Nicaragua. Wrapper is Brazilian Matafina. Binder is from Honduras, and the filler is from Colombia, Dominican Republic, and Nicaragua. Price point on this cigar is $6.99, and it was released in July of 2016. So with the stats out of the way, let's get into our experience. So June, what was your pre-light experience like?
I thought that the cigar, um, I pinpointed at a Colorado Maduro shape. Wrapper really hearty, rustic. Roll roll of the wrapper. I thought the seams were tight. The veins were really well pressed. Bunching. What I was kind of feeling it with my fingertips that I typically do in the pre-light to kind of see how especially the bunching was. Um, the bunching for me was on the two examples that I smoked was really firm and it had very little give to it. And that got me thinking. Well, hopefully that doesn't relay to a firmer draw.
Mhm.
Um, Head finish off, nice thick double cap for me to kind of play without the cut, which is always nice to have. In terms of the smells of the pre-light, wrapper smell, I got to make sure barnyard flowers and cedar. Foot smells of barnyard, like just like a typical natural sweet tobacco, and some white pepper. On the cold draw, I got some saltiness, cedar, and a little bit of white pepper coming through. So overall, a good pre-light experience.
Yeah, dark brown wrapper. There was a couple of visible veins. Seams were smooth, but they were visible due to like a darker shade near the edges of the seams. Uh, Caps were applied very well. The band's very simple oval, kind of running vertically, has the CAO name on it. Colors are identical to the Sopranos version earlier on, so just black and red. The aroma from the wrapper was like a wet hay in barnyard, and the foot aroma was had a distinct raisin sweetness for me. Pre-light draw, it was like a slightly mellower version of that sweet raisin that I was getting from the foot. And there was also a little bit of a spicy tingle that I was getting on my lips there. So getting into flavor, first third to final third, what was your experience like?
When I first lit it up, I mean, uh, now that I don't review blind, one of the rituals of pre-light is by looking at the statistics of the blend.
Hmm.
So when I saw that it was Brazilian Matafina, I expected first and foremost like a ton of creamy sweetness, which is what I typically get out of a Brazilian Matafina wrapper, and that's exactly what I got out of this. So what I didn't expect with the typical Brazilian Matafina was notes surrounding that flavor.
Hmm.
So what I meant by that is specifically, I got bread, milk chocolate, some nuts, faint black pepper, and some minerality coming through. So it was a very nice supporting cast of flavors to mix in with that dominant note of creamy sweetness. And then, roughly about an inch in a cigar, I got some faint wood coming into the palate as well. Through the retro, I got a elevated and really a preferred level of increase of black pepper. In addition, I picked up some baking spices in a light oak. Um, Finish lingered with a faint wood, tongue layering black pepper, and faint bread. And within the first third, in terms of body and strength, I pended between, in terms of body, somewhere between medium full. And strength was just at a consistent medium. So moving into the second third, still, pretty much all the core flavors. That's what I tasted in the first third. It was very much still a dominant creamy sweetness, accompanied by bread, milk chocolate, faint black pepper, minerals, and faint wood. And then within the second third, I had a really tasty note of like a ripe cherry come through,
Hmm.
or perhaps like a ripe stone fruit of some sort. But to me, it was very like cherry like. that was really ripe. So love that note. Every time I get something like that, I was still saying same thing. Elevator levels of black pepper, baking spices, sweet cream, light oak. But at the finish, I felt like the finish complexities died down, and it left me mainly with a little bit of faint wood. Body, I will say, when I within the first throw was between medium full. Body is now I pointed as a medium full, and strength still at a medium. So in terms of body and strength, since the beginning of the second, uh, third, all the way through the end of the smoking experience, it was at medium full and medium strength.
Hmm.
Uh, so final third kind of took a bit of a dive. Within the first half of the last third, it was exactly mimicking the second third. In other words, I liked it. However, when I got to the second part of the last third, um, I started getting a little bit of a harsh bitterness. But in this example, when I say harsh bitterness, a semi-harsh bitterness, it overtook a lot of the complexities and the nuances that I was already tasting. So the profile mainly became dominant with, of course, a semi-harsh bitterness, dry wood, and a very toned down level of creamy sweetness. Through the nose, still same thing. Increased black pepper, baking spice, creamy sweetness, light oak. Finish, namely, still faint wood, but now with that introduction of harsh bitterness. So, all in all, very good flavors. Second third was my favorite, especially when that ripe cherry started popping through. But overall, good.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, the initial draws brought like an aged woodiness, and the retrohale was kind of like a mellower version of that same aged woodiness. After a few draws, some creaminess and a very slight black pepper kind of joined the aged wood there. Half an inch in, profile became very smooth with the cream and that light aged wood. They were even on levels. A little bit of that black pepper on the finish. The retrohale was a light oak. And then at an inch in, the pepper picks up a little bit in intensity and kind of move forward with that creamy wood becoming less full. And then as the third came to a close, that pepper backed off, and it was more just of a finish with that creamy wood up front. The retrohale had transitioned to a lightly spicy cedar at that point, and the strength was just slightly above medium. And then getting into the second third, um, cream really picked up, and it kind of made the smoke very chewy. It was just very full, and it still had that woodiness with the cream and the pepper finish. The retrohale had increased the spice level and still mixing with that cedar. And then a quarter inch in, that creaminess mellowed back down to get back in line with the woodiness. And then at an inch in, a slight mintiness joined with the creamy wood, and the pepper had gone away completely at that point. And then an inch and a quarter in, a little nuttiness had joined in with that creamy wood and the mintiness. And the retrohale was kind of a creamy mintiness at that point. And then as the third was coming to a close, that creamy wood and that slight mintiness was continuing on, and the strength was still slightly above medium there. And then in the final third, the mintiness increased and evened out with that creamy wood. And then a half inch in, the mintiness faded back a bit with the creamy wood moving back up front. There's also a bit of ashiness that kind of came into the profile, and the retrohale was now kind of minty and woody. And then an inch in, the ashiness was only really present like on maybe one out of every three draws, but it was just you get a hint of it here and there. Um, and then that's pretty much how the cigar finished out for me. But the strength did increase a little bit there to medium full. So it's kind of stayed there slightly above medium, and then just kind of went up a little bit, kind of in that final third. And that I kind of find that typical in the final third. Strength usually increases a little bit, kind of as you're getting there. Things heat up a little bit, and strength typically increases a bit. So getting into performance, burn and draw, what was your experience like?
Um, by the way, when you're talking about body in terms of you had like a really chewy smoke.
Right.
Uh, that's a great way to put it because oftentimes I would associate a really chewy cigar, like a chewy body, to like a fuller body.
Hmm.
But yeah. Anyways, for construction, I thought the burn was really good. I smoked both samples in roughly a little under in 2 hours, like hour 50, hour 55, somewhere in that range. So really good. Burn line was slightly wavy, but it always corrected itself. I never had to touch it up or relight it or anything. So really no true issues there. Ashes really sturdy. I mean, these are really sturdy ashes. Increments. And perhaps this is not so much bird related as compared to the first, second, and last third, but I felt like was just really pleasurable, right? Like, it was, sometimes when I smell cigar smoke, it kind of has a tendency to sometimes smell really sour. There's like a sourness, especially I get with like Corojo and Criollo blends.
Hmm.
But especially with something like really hearty, like Connecticut broadleaf or like Brazilian Matafina, the really rich fruity. So it has something to do with burn, I guess, because the burn is low. On the draw, so on the draw, what I was talking about on my pre-light experience of how I felt like the bunching was a bit firm to the touch, especially on the head area. So that actually equated directly to having a tighter draw. Um, but I mean, even excuse me, even me saying that, I felt like the draw was average. It wasn't poor by any means, but it wasn't like really affecting a lot of it. But it was nonetheless annoying that I was having to draw harder than I typically have to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. For me, the burn was really good. Burn line was pretty straight the entire way. The ash was like a very bright white and it was really dense. Did you have that kind of similar experience on your samples?
Yep.
Yeah, it was just like it was super white, and it was just like typically when you have smoke, you kind of see where you take each draw, and you kind of have a little indentation there on each one. This was pretty even throughout. I was getting about an inch and a half segments before the ash wanted to drop, so that's pretty good. Um, for the draw, it was a little tighter than I prefer, but not really a problem. I was able to still get tons of smoke on every draw and things like that. So it was really just a preference thing in regards to just being slightly tighter than I prefer, but it wasn't anything that was bad, I would say. So getting into overall experience, what was yours like?
So in general, I haven't liked Brazilian Matafina cigars that much.
Hmm.
Not enough to like want to go with fiber or more. Um, but to my surprise, I enjoy this one. And my barometer of enjoying it is I will smoke it again, right?
Hmm.
Like if the price is right, I go buy five of these.
Hmm.
And the reason why I typically don't like most Brazilian Matafinas is because I feel like they're either one dimensional and they're just too creamy and sweet, and sometimes it gets a little sickening creamy and
Hmm.
sweet for me. But I felt like this cigar had that dominant note of that, but it was surrounded by a really good, cast of notes that really, pull the profile together really well. So to that extent, I really enjoy this one, and I could totally see why there's so many fans, and ultimately Journal decided to re-release this cigar. Right? Um, I find that with something like this, uh, there's a probably a wider net of likers out there because I mean it's not that strong. It's a really sweet. There's a sweet creaminess that's always present in the profile for most of the cigar, anyways. Um, and it's a really chewy smoke, right? So I think if you add those combinations together, it typically equates to you know casual cigar smokers to cigar enthusiasts that smoke more, lucky and on both ends.
Hmm. Yeah, I thought this was a pretty good cigar. I mean, it's been a really long time since I smoked an original release Sopranos. But from what I recall, this seems to be a pretty close representation to what I remember about that cigar. You were kind of talking about the strength level. I kind of think that maybe it's probably not a cigar for a newer smoker or somebody that likes a milder strength profile. Because it was, for me at least, it was a little bit slightly above medium for most of the way until the final third, where it kind of kicked up a little bit. Um, but I think for those that like kind of medium strength cigars or higher, it's probably definitely worth a try to see if they, to see if they'd enjoy it. Um, And now that CAO doesn't have to pay the kind of the licensing fees that were associated with the Sopranos to HBO, they were able to drastically reduce the cost of this cigar. So it's at a really good price point. So for the people that were fans of that original release, um, you know, this is a really nice Brazilian Modafina cigar. Um, you know, it's really easily approachable for some more experienced smokers. Um, and I think for people that like this, and with the price point, it can really be a kind of a daily smoke for them. Because $6.99, that's a really well priced cigar. Um, but I agree with you on the Brazilian Modafina. I mean, a lot of them are typically just kind of that single note, because they use a lot of, some of them use it as, for a lot of the filler as well. So you're not getting, some variations in flavors and things like that. But this is completely different than that. So, I think it's a really good cigar. Price point makes it really attractive. So I think it's a winner. Um, Getting into scores, you gave it a 6.27. I gave it a 7.00. How do you think your score matched up with your experience?
Yeah, I mean, when I think about that score, I think about overall a bar, which is what I rated in terms of the flavor profile.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I had a little bit of a downer in terms of the draw, but I think that's probably where our main differential is between you and me.
Hmm.
But nonetheless, I mean, when I think about smoking a cigar, I'm purely looking at the smoking experience, right? The flavors and body strength and nuance in that the whole right. So when I look at it from that perspective, it's well worth trying. It's well worth buying. Um, yeah, so that score sounds in line with my expectations.
Yeah, mine's really good representation. 7 even is a pretty good score, and with the price point, it's those two items together just makes for something that's really attractive to people. I think so. Um, I think it's a winner. Definitely something I'm gonna smoke more of. It's very very much available out there, so it's not gonna like people are gonna have a hard time finding it or anything like that. If people missed out on those original Sopranos and ended up getting secondary releases that they tweaked the blend on, um, this is their chance to kind of go back to that and see what that really was. And at that point, they can decide if they want to kind of go deep on this, because I think there's gonna be a lot of people that are fans of this cigar. So, any final thoughts from you on this cigar?
Um, I think about Journal and all the plethora of offerings that they have. I think especially with CEO, they're killing it. You know,
Hmm.
like starting with Amazon Basing, which still people to this day track down in the secondary market.
Right.
And with this, fans of the original Sopranos, which there's quite a few of, they could be happy about this, especially at the lower price point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're over there thinking that Journal was just cigars that your dad used to smoke, I think just looking at CAOs and trying the new CAOs will really, change people's perspective on what Journal can do.
Yep. Exactly. Well, thanks for watching. If you're just catching this video on YouTube, be sure to check out the full written review on the website, developingpalates.com. Subscribe to us on YouTube. You'll get notified of all of our new review recaps. But be sure to follow us on all the social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google+. Thank you for watching, and we will catch you on the next video.